Good morning.
Good morning. It's Sunday, November 12th, 2023, and we're glad to have you. Anybody who's just entering, please mute yourself, and we're happy to stay on and chat with you afterward. So our topic today is finding the sacred
Sure, I'm up here.
in the mundane, and we talked about that a little bit last week because we were talking about the mundane and how hard it can be when we're inundated with bad news around the world, in our living rooms all the time. But today I would just like to focus on the ways that we each find the sacred, so they become practices that we do regularly to keep ourselves connected to the sacred. So let's begin with an opening prayer, an opening affirmative prayer. So we come together today to remind ourselves of the spiritual truth of us and of life, that we are pure spirit, eternal in nature, and eternally connected to the divine, to the source of all life, to the source of continuing life, to the one power and presence in the universe that we call by many names. And it doesn't care what we call it, but we may call it Father, Mother, God. We may call it infinite intelligence, universal love. It is called by many names, sometimes Mother Mary. So we just know that there is one creative power, and we are energetically one with it. It flows in and through us. It is us as us. And so we appreciate this knowing, this understanding, for we know we cannot be separated from it. And despite whatever appears to be wrong in our world, when we know we're connected with the one creative power, everything is right. So we declare that, we know that, we release that knowing, and together we say,
And so it is.
and so it is.
Okay, so today I picked a piece of artwork, particularly for this occasion. I think it was a phoenix rising from the ashes. And another way of saying that is that we are raising ourselves up. If your arm is over here, then I'm in the picture for whatever reason. Yeah, it doesn't separate us. The phoenix is rising and from the ashes, and that represents the good coming out of the fire, coming out of what might even have been what we thought of as evil or bad or unpleasant. Something comes out of that is more and greater, and that is the phoenix rising from the ashes. It's also a recognition of Veterans Day, and that there were so many losses and also so many gains and so many horrors and so many sacred experiences, and one cannot really have one without the other. And that's part of what we're talking about today is that there is this wonderful blending of things that we need even when we don't want them, and it's a challenge.
And it is a challenge for our soldiers who have to go to war to find that sacred, although there is that saying, there are no atheists in foxholes, because when your life is on the line, you definitely want to pray to God. But also many of them that just totally lose their faith in anything good because they see such terrible things happening. So we want to know for them that there is good in the universe, there is God in the universe, and really, in the truth of matter, all is well, because even death is just an appearance of death, because life goes on, and the life of the soul or spirit of each person that dies physically goes on, and so even though things appear terrible, if we could see clearly, if we could see like our spirits and their lives and all the different variations of life that we have experienced as spirit, we could see clearly. Right now we see through a glass darkly, as the Bible says. I think that's in Revelations. Right now we see through a glass darkly, but then we shall see, when we are in spirit, then we will see rightly. So we have to be careful when we want to judge everything that's happening right now as terrible and evil, and it shouldn't be, because as I was reminded in a group I attended this week from A Course in Miracles, it said we do not have all the information. We cannot, when we judge, we're judging wrongly because we cannot see clearly. We see in part. So even when everything looks impossibly evil, we need to back off and say, I don't know enough. I don't see enough to judge anything as right or wrong. And I don't have all the answers. But what I can do is practice the sacred in my life, because we can get so focused on what appears to be going wrong that we just forget and make ourselves miserable. So yesterday, when we met in person up in West Palm Beach, North Palm Beach, actually, people shared what they do to get to the sacred in their lives. And one of the first sharings was chanting. There are these spiritual practices, we call them, and they're called practices because we do practice them. We do it because it takes us to the sacred. So chanting is a way, especially if it's often in another language like Hindu. You don't even know what it says, but you're just making sounds that are familiar to you with the chant, and it takes you to another place, to a sacred place. Meditation is that way, and that's why we call it practicing meditation, because it is, when it becomes a daily practice, it enriches you, it calms you, and you literally become a different person, because that's a practice of stilling your busy thoughts,
The monkey mind,
which is your all your fear thoughts and what you have to do today and all of that. So meditating is a way of kind of stilling the chatter, so you can hear you can hear spirit, or get ideas, or just become calm and centered. What were some of the other things that they shared, honey?
Music, laughter. Laughter is such a huge piece. One of the things about laughter is if you can find laughing at yourself, laughing at something, when you're laughing, it is hard to be afraid, because laughter and fear don't go together. There's an old song that I remember growing up with, trying to stay on the screen, that I remember growing up with, "Whistle When You're Afraid." I don't remember. I think it's a Disney movie that it came from, "Whistle When You're Afraid." And the reason that's a really very powerful thing is because when you're afraid, you don't whistle. And when you're afraid, you typically are silent. Often we don't breathe. If we breathe, we're saying we don't mind being visible. If we whistle, we don't mind being seen, and we don't mind being heard. And in a kind of way, whistling and breathing accesses our own awareness of our own being, that we are, and we're not going away. We don't have to disappear. And that's really, really important.
I think the Disney was Whistle While You Work. Those were the Seven Dwarfs.
Well, there's another one, "Whistle When You're Afraid." Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I remember that song very clearly because I was often afraid and I learned how to whistle. This is really disconcerting to have.
You're becoming a phoenix.
keep disappearing. Yeah. What I want to share an experience that I had some time ago that it came back to me today when I was thinking about this business of what is the sacred. How do we find the sacred? I was at a meeting with our organization some years ago, and I was talking to, I think, 4 or 5 other ministers, and we were having a fairly animated conversation, and all was well. And I was definitely present for them. They were present for me. We were aware of each other. We knew each other's stories to some extent because we had all gone through ministry, and that was fine. At some point, I commented on the articles that I write for the Science of Mind magazine, and one of the ministers said, "You're the author of that?" So yeah, I write a column called Murphy, and oh my God. And all of a sudden I could see the entire group shift from I was a person like them to that I was now a special person. What if we looked for the special in everyone? What if we looked for that special? What if we knew that it was there, but we had to discover it? And the whole conversation changed. And I was at a party some time back, and somebody asked me what I did, and I didn't want to tell them I work in mental health, because as soon as you do that, they want to tell you about all the relatives that are sick, and what do you think? And so I said, I'm an artist. Really? Uh-huh. Okay, thank. Well, that's great. And then the person that I said that to went off away and came back, and what he did was he went on his cell phone to look up my name, and he said, "You didn't tell me you were a real artist." And I said, well, I don't understand. He says, "Well, your work is really, you are really something." And it was interesting. He didn't even realize what he was saying, that I had been not so much or nothing up until then. And we do that, we disqualify. It's almost as if we put looking for the sacred or something wonderful on hold for those special moments, like when we walk into a cathedral. And it's hard not to be moved by a cathedral because the walls are huge. The ceiling is far, far away. There's stained glass windows. There's music that's unlike anything in this world. That helps us transport our ideas of where we are into something spectacular. If you walk into a cathedral and you look around, it doesn't seem unreasonable that there might be a miracle or that miracles might happen. Mm-hmm. What I'm suggesting is that what we need to do or could do is look for the miracle in everyday living. Look for the miracles that are everywhere present. Look for the miracles in other people that are often hidden just beneath the surface, wanting us to find them, to discover them. And so what I would suggest is that finding the sacred is being an explorer and being willing to have a hypothesis that everyone is sacred. And my job is to see if I can discover that, if I can discover that part of them that is special and wonderful and amazing, instead of naming them and walking away from them. And we often do that. We often name things in order to feel like we have some control over them, instead of, what is it? Well, what does it do? How does it work? And that's really, really important. So my suggestion for finding the sacred is allow everything to be sacred, and allow yourself to discover that.
Yes, we talked yesterday about how the cathedrals, especially the really old cathedrals that took centuries to build, were otherworldly places when you entered. First of all, their ceilings are so high, and there's art everywhere. Even when the architecture, there's art. And the stained glass windows are colorful and have stories, and the light shines through. So everything, it takes you to a different place. And that's what they were designed to do. They were designed for people to leave their mundane world and come inside this special place where you immediately feel the sacred.
You know, and what I'm also suggesting metaphorically is that imagine that each person you meet is a stained glass window, and you bring the light. And a stained glass window in darkness just isn't the same. And when the sun comes out and you light it, it just transforms everything. So you are the light that you are also looking for. You bring the light to the occasion, and and that light that you bring illumines other people and illumines their good and illumines their consciousness.
Also, several of the people that shared how they find the sacred say that when whatever practice they're using, and for, I think for one person it was even swimming, but then they can hear messages from spirit, from angels, who knows where, but it's always guidance, it's always uplifting, it's always a way to elevate your vibrations, your consciousness. And that is a real thing. As we feel the sacred, sometimes I can feel a vibration around my fingers, especially if there's music playing. I can feel the vibration of the music. And that's just sort of you becoming more aware of yourself as a vibration, as a spirit. And it's quite beautiful, and it can take you out of any strife or worry mode.
It's just very frustrating.
I'm having trouble being. Yeah, can you sit more forward?
I don't think that's going to help.
Let me put my arm behind you. How about that? Yes, you get closer.
Shoulder was getting sore from having to bend so far. It doesn't bend like it used to.
As long as our faces are there, we're good.
I'm larger than you are, Judith.
I know. I like that.
And I think one of the things that we miss out on is we miss out on how we are being looked out for, that we are being watched over, that we are valuable enough and important enough that spirit wants for us to succeed and achieve. And that's really, really, imagine, I was driving through the Pocono Mountains years ago in my Porsche. And what that meant was I was driving much too fast because it was so much fun to drive the curves. And I was having a great time, way over the speed limit, but that was okay. There wasn't anybody there. I'm just really having a good time. And all of a sudden I hear, slow down around the next corner. Well, that would have been okay to hear if there'd been anybody else in the car but me, and there wasn't anybody. I slowed down immediately. It scared me half to death. And as I rounded the corner, there was a 2-car accident, a police car, an ambulance, a fire truck, and I would have piled right into him. You know, think about how special you are, that spirit's watching out for you. In 2014, I had a stroke, and the reason that I'm here today, because at 3 a.m., a voice said, "Get up," or I would have slept through the night, and probably that would have been the end of my life. And so if we're worth watching out for, if spirit is watching out for us, if spirit is actually there for us 24/7, even when we're sleeping, why aren't we there for ourselves more? Why aren't we willing to appreciate the sacredness of our own being and applaud that in other people as well? And every time I share that story in a group, I'll have 2 or 3 or 4 other people tell me that they've had something very similar to that happen. And so this is not something that just happens to me. It happens to us all the time because we're always being watched over. Well, if you have a baby, one of the things you do is you watch over it. Why? Because it's important, because it's valuable, because its life means something. I think probably for spirit, we're all a bunch of babies that we need looking after.
Another way that people find get in touch with the sacred is being in nature. Just, when I walk out in our walking area with lots of trees and grass, I feel the energy from the trees, nourishing me. And then of course you have the added value of the birds and whatever critters are around that just make you feel that all is well in the world. I have a little passage about an area that we're very familiar with called the Lone Cypress. It's on the 17-mile drive from Pacific Grove to Carmel, California. And it's kind of iconic for the California coastline. But I'd like to read you this paragraph. This woman, Sue Patton Tolley, in a book called The Mindful Woman, said, perched atop a rock outcropping stands a single cypress tree that has become a well-known symbol of the California coastline. For over 250 years, the lone cypress has inspired artists, photographers, tourists, and residents who travel that 17-mile drive. What is it about this one relatively small tree that makes me and countless others want to stay in the presence for as long as we can? The cypress stands alone, unvanquished by either the frantic wind or the turbulent sea. A singular object of beauty, silhouetted against the ever-changing background of the vast, mysterious ocean. A symbol of survival and inspiration. Each of us has something in common with the lone cypress. We're battered by storms, stand firm on rocky ground, become symbols of courage by surviving hardship with grace, and bring our own matchless beauty and inspiration to the world. Without egotism or conceit, we need to accept our own excellence. Recognizing the love, joy, compassion, and beauty you have to offer helps you accept the sacred responsibility for sharing it. As the single cypress inspired me, you can inspire others.
It reminds me when we were at Silmar in California, you go out to the water and on the way there you see lots and lots of trees, but all of the trees are bent severely.
The wind, constant wind.
Because of the constant wind. But what you don't see is their success. What you don't see is their victory over the wind. The wind has forced them to bend, but not break. The wind has forced them to adjust to its presence, but it hasn't eliminated them. It hasn't undone them. And I think sometimes we see people that are bent. We see people that are bent in so many different ways, and very often we judge them rather than admire how their victory over the forces that have caused them to be bent, to be out of shape, to be out of touch, in some cases with what we think is important. And I just think it's an interesting thing to see.
So our time has come.
You're kidding.
And would you like to close with a prayer?
Yes, I would. So I won't ask us to come together because we are together. We are together as one, even when we don't know that that's true. We are in each other's hearts and souls and spirits. We share so much in so many ways that we don't even know we share. There is just one light, one good, one source for good, one divine intelligence, and it operates in and through all of us, and it is operating right here and right now. And whatever our needs are, we know right here and right now they are being met, that we are exceeding our greatest and wildest dreams. And even if it does not appear to be so, in the deepest and most true sense, it is always so. Who we are, what we are, is present right now in the eyes, in the mind, in the heart, and the soul of God. For this we say thank you, and together we say, and so it is.
So it is.
Now we're going to go to share a page. You want to cover that?
Oh, thank you. Yes. So right now we welcome your support, your financial support, which is necessary to keep our ministry going. And so this is our website page, cslpalmbeaches.org. And at the top, right next to home, it says ways to donate. And so that's how you can give online through a credit card or PayPal. And we thank you very much for doing it. So let's say the affirmation here, because you as you give, you receive. So we all want to receive more. So we have to find ways to support that help our inspiration. Places that inspire us are places we should tithe to, tenth to. It's, you don't have to give a tenth of your income, but a tithing is a conscious, regular giving. And so I've got a friend who tithes to maids in hotels because that's what she likes to do. I think they inspire her. But at any rate, let's say the affirmation at the bottom here. My investment today is made with a full realization that God is the source of my supply and returns it to me enriched and multiplied. And so it is.
Thank you. There we go. And now we're going to stop recording.